because Jason just stepped off a plane to be here this morning, and I wasn't sure whether I was going to see him. You know, flights from China, in my personal experience, sometimes can have like delays or misconnections and all that.
Especially Shanghai Airport, Guangzhou Airport, they're the worst.
Yeah, but you look fresh. You look good. Yeah.
Thank you. I had a couple hours, and that's all I need now. So okay. I'm ready to go.
Right. Thanks again for joining us. So just a quick introduction. Jason heads up esports for Alisports, which is the sports arm of Alibaba. You started your career with tech startups in Canada, all centered around gaming, esports. You've been involved in gaming VODs, gaming live streaming, esports fantasy, and most recently you headed up APAC esports for EA, Electronic Arts. So thank you. So we're going to kind of like just go straight into it. You have this IP that you created called WESG, the World Electronic Sports Games. Tell us all about it. How did it start? What have you guys done so far?
Sure. We're a relatively young company, and it's a very, very young IP. Alisports started 3 years ago. We actually celebrated our 3rd birthday yesterday in Chongqing, along with that big announcement that we had, which I'll talk about a little later.
Big announcement.
Right. And when we first started 3 years ago, it was spearheaded by Mr. Zhang Dazhong. And Mr. Zhang Dazhong was a pioneer in the China sports and sort of esports industry. He was the one that brought FIFA 94 to television broadcast in China.
FIFA 94?
All the way back then.
Was that FIFA then, 94?
Yeah, FIFA 94. So I think he's been in sort of the esports industry longer than any of us that's working for him right now. And then he went on to work for SMG, Shanghai Media Group, which is one of the largest media companies. And he started a live streaming platform in 2004 called GameFi. I think that's the translation, but it should be in Chinese. And it went on to becoming one of the most popular esports/gaming content platforms in China. So when he started Alisports, he really wanted to have esports and gaming as part of what we do. And when we were looking at the marketplace to see what kind of opportunities were there, there were a lot of very established players with very, very long history. All the game publishers, all the third-party organizers. We spent a long time figuring out where we wanted to have our wedge in the door. And we spent the first 6 months sort of doing that. We realized that, one, we wanted to have esports something to do with sports. Two, we're a technology company, so we wanted esports and technology, that intersection in between. And three, Alibaba Group is a platform company. So how do we also sort of integrate that in? And at that point, when we consider sports, we're looking at the top sporting events in the world, the highest level of sports. What are some characteristics of that? For example, it's nation versus nation. For example, there's men and women's groups. It's on an international scale. It's broadcast in different languages, et cetera, et cetera. And we thought that creating a competition IP would be a great way to start in the industry. And we were fully confident that we had the resources to do so and the team to do so. So 2.5 years ago, we launched WESG, which stands for World Electronic Sports Games. In our first year, we really just focused on building out the team and building out our presence in China, but very limited presence internationally. I think in the Western world, you've only heard of it with that big, I think it was a $100 million announcement that Alibaba Group's investing in the esports, and then we sort of disappeared for a year because we focused domestically. In year two, though, is where we really expanded our international efforts. So we built out the team, we worked with more partners, and we try to figure out what is the best way to expand and scale starting from year two. Last year, we had 9 different partners worldwide that we worked with that used our IP and executed WSG offline LAN events. This year, we are covering 38 different countries around the world. So that scale of growth is tremendous in that 1 year's time. also this year, we're in almost all provinces in China.
Wow. There's a lot of provinces.
That's a lot of provinces, yes. We cover into 20 different subregions, and we have LAN events in all 20 different subregions, and then offline events to cover the cities, smaller cities around those center regions. So extremely busy in China, and internationally, I think we're just getting started. So really look forward to upcoming this year. All of our online qualifiers are going to happen, as well as next year as well.
So you had $100 million announcement, and then you disappeared in China, because in China you can spend $100 million in one day, kind of. Right, yeah, but you didn't disappear. This year you announced the prize pool for WESG is $5.5 million US dollars. That's a lot of money. Yeah, and you mentioned you literally made an announcement yesterday in Chongqing. You got on a plane, and then you got off a plane here, and here you are here live on stage at Gaming Matters to tell us, what did you announce yesterday?
So it's already released on Chinese press. I think it's still being translated into English. So
still being translated, so you can give us the lowdown.
Speak a little bit about it.
Tell the translator to slow down.
So,
yeah.
So very excited about Chongqing. We first started talking to them back in March during our grand finals in Haikou. We had a lot of their, I guess, government representatives come over, a lot of their local business come over to get to know what our competition is about, to get to know Alisports, et cetera. And Chongqing is a great city in terms of a base for commerce in the Western China geographic map. It's the only city that offers railway transportation all the way from Europe, all the way down to it's escaping me, a country in Southeast Asia.
Malaysia?
I believe so. So it's either Malaysia or Singapore.
Okay. Trying to get the One Belt, One Road all the way down to Malaysia, I think.
Well, we'll do some fact checking later.
Right.
But Chongqing definitely is a very vibrant city with a lot of people, a lot of growth, and it's one of the major hubs that China is going to develop over the next few decades. So when we're talking to them about the possibility of having WESG there, the possibility of having Alisports there, we're very excited. And I think what we announced is in two parts with many more to come. The first part is that WESG Grand Finals will be held in Chongqing this year in March.
2019 March.
Yes, 2019 March. So they've successfully won at, we've always had a host city bidding model, so they've successfully won that bid. But then they did more than that, because we will be forever in Chongqing.
Forever? What does that mean?
Till the end of time. So essentially, as long as our business operates and runs, we'll have our WESG Grand Final in Chongqing. And that leads to the second point is we are taking the esports business unit. It's still going to be part of Alisports, but we are relocating it as a separate company in Chongqing. So we'll make that move in the next 6 months. And with that will come a lot of additional resources from the company, from the government, to expand our operations and our plans. It really accelerates what we want to do in the long term.
So next time any of us want to visit you in China, it's not Hangzhou, it's not Shanghai, it's going to be Chongqing. And we can possibly take a train. Go by rail. Possibly. We'll fact check that later.
I don't really know. It's quite far. I think you might have to take the plane.
But that's a big move, right? Not like moving the entire business and operations there, spinning off from Alisports and all that. You gotta get ready to live in Chongqing yourself.
Yeah. Oh, Shanghai is really east, right? And Chongqing is just all the way west. So it's really a cross-country move for us.
Wow. Okay. So tell us about WESG in terms of like well, you kind of just alluded to that, right? The longer term goals and all that. What are some of the challenges maybe you think you foresee, or you can talk a bit more about the plans that you just not mentioned yet? Yeah.
Sure. Maybe I can talk about some short-term goals and some long-term goals, and we can have a casual chat about all of that. I think in the short term, we want to keep building out our international presence. We want to have more competitions around the world.
And we just had your Singapore qualifiers here in Singapore yesterday.
Yeah, I heard that was very, very successful.
It was.
Nikki did a great job in organizing that.
Yeah. Okay.
Yeah. So this year, Southeast Asia was one of our focus regions. We're in all 10 Southeast Asian countries, and then we have a Southeast Asia final. So total 11 offline events. This year, we're also breaking into Australia, New Zealand, Pacific Island. We've broken the USA, Canada, working for the first time with our partners, World Gaming over there. We're going to have a Japan event. But I think next year, we're going to have a focus on South America, Africa, Western Europe, and India. Those are the regions that we have relatively weak presence in right now that we really want to build out. So I guess in the perfect world.
It's interesting you got Japan first before South America and South Africa.
I think Japan is giving a lot of effort in catching up in their esports industry.
It's really good to know. Esports is bringing the world closer together.
It is. I think it's in gaming, it's a common language.
That's right.
Yeah. So where was I?
Even the short term and then the longer term, so some of the stuff that...
Right. So we want to keep expanding our offline events. We feel like having an offline presence in each country is the best way to build our competition IP. And then aside from that, we also need to keep up with the game titles as well. And what I mean by that is, as a third-party organizer, we have certain challenges in terms of being able to secure game licenses so that we can do our competitions. But in the short term, obviously, we'll make our best efforts to get the most popular games on board, get the most relevant games on board. But at the same time, I think we have a slightly different attitude towards that than most third-party game publishers. We want to do the popular ones, but we also want to invest resources in building out sort of the less popular titles, and even less popular categories. And I'll expand a little bit on that, right? The one thing as Alisports and what we want to push, we really want to focus on sport titles. And although sport titles may not draw in the most viewership, they may not have the most fan base, not yet, we feel like there's just so much potential there that we want to invest in it now. Right? When I say different categories, we're heavily looking into drone racing, we're heavily looking into robot fighting, and other forms of esports that uses technology to compete. So these are all areas that we're looking at. And we believe that as a platform, in the long term, we shouldn't worry too much about what's hot right now. There's always going to be cycles where different games become popular and then unpopular. Different categories may arise, etc. And just taking a long-term view, I think this is a good way for us to develop.
Yeah, I want to pick up on what you just shared about, your third party, even though you're Alibaba. So there is still some challenge in terms of trying to get the titles that you want or the popular ones like you mentioned, and obviously you're thinking about building out in other categories. I think sports IPs or sports related esports is going to be amazing. But is it a real challenge for you guys as Alibaba? I mean, to me, it's like you can get anything you want.
I think it's less to do with being Alibaba or not Alibaba. I think it has to do with clashing strategies between game publishers and what we want to do. And a very specific example is, we are a global tournament. We're an international tournament. We want the best talent to come, right? So whenever we consider a title on board, we want to keep that sort of global level. And I think different game publishers have different attitudes towards working with third parties. And depending on the region or if it's global, for example, we work very closely with Blizzard, and they're great partners. They allow us to do what we want to do on the global scale. And there's other publishers where we were in talks with as well that were only opening us to doing their games on a regional level, and they want to perhaps do the global level by themselves or on their own. And we completely respect that. We think there's a place in the industry for all different models and for everybody.
And did you mention about trying to integrate more with Alibaba's main group platform?
Yep.
And all that O2O stuff, and you have a deal with like OCA and the Olympic Council of Asia and the Hangzhou Asian Games Committee, right? And how are those discussions going on? What can you share with us?
I can't share much on that.
Okay.
But,
okay. Whatever you can share.
I can say that the deal that Alisports signed with the OCA and the Hangzhou Organizing Committee, I think that deal was done right after the Asian Games or the last day. Our goal is to provide the most technologically advanced Asian Games in 2022 in Hangzhou. And we're going to do that through a variety of ways. We're going to do that through other companies within the Alibaba Group portfolio as well. So can't discuss too much details there, but
I understand.
Really look forward to that.
Yep. So let's take a step back. You kind of alluded to some of this earlier, but kind of big picture. Why esports for Alibaba? You've made some mention of that, and what is your end game? Alibaba, Alisports, Ali Esports, in terms of both esports and gaming in a bigger sense.
Yeah, so having a WESG competition, that's our way in the door. But we are also trying literally a million different things, right? So
you're Alibaba, you can try a million different things.
Right, and we're very much a startup at heart, and we're allowed to try different things, and we're given the flexibility to do so. So for example, one of the things that's really taken off in China is our esports cafe business, right? So a little bit about that, we built a turnkey solution so that anybody that wants to open up an esports cafe can do so. They'll have everything designed, all the computer specs, we have all the vendors for them, even the back-end software system to manage the cafe, we've written on our own. And it's a solution that we've pushed out to the market. And in China, there's over 68,000 internet cafes that are associated with our affiliate program right now.
Wait, 68,000 cafes
68,000.
using your software?
Yes.
So we had Ronald on stage just now, and he had 150 or 100 over cafes and all that. And you just mentioned 68,000 cafes?
68,000, yeah.
Okay.
So we're replicating that model in Southeast Asia right now, since we're so successful in China. And then we look forward to replicating that model perhaps elsewhere in the world. That's one example of things that's been successful. We also have a very good start in China for esports education. We're working with some major universities, well-known universities there, and we're just starting on that. We just started to dabble in some retail, online to offline retail experiences, opportunities. And we're able to try all these different things because I think in the end, what we want to build is a platform for esport users with a commerce focus. And we keep asking ourselves, what does that platform look like? Is such a platform even possible? So I don't think we've found the perfect solution yet, but we're willing to invest time and resources into figuring that out. We think that esports is here to stay. Alibaba is also here to stay. So this is more of a 10, 15, 20-year play for us. Yeah, and we really look forward to the journey ahead.
Esports is here to stay, and you're looking at a 10, 15, 20 years play. Wow, that's and you mentioned about investing. I actually wonder, you know, like in terms of profitability, breaking even and all that, are you confident, like kind of like, of breaking even for the business in the next 2 years? Is it even important to you guys?
Yeah, it's definitely important. When we first started, we had a mandate of breaking even in 5 years. I think that's
it's lifetime in esports.
It is. I think that was the answer Mr. Zhang Zong gave.
You can burn hundreds of millions of dollars before you.
Right. So the good news is, I think we're actually on track to break even this year.
Wow, that's
no
very
guarantees,
impressive.
but we're on track, and we're able to do that so quickly. I think because of the backing of the government, because of our recent deal with Chongqing and businesses around Chongqing. It's a model that exists, I think, in China that rarely exists anywhere else in the world, which we're very happy to be able to take part in and benefit from.
You know, I want to kind of like jump on that point. You said that you have the backing of the government, and you made mention about the deal that you have with the Chongqing government. And esports has grown the way it's grown right now phenomenally, without much involvement and support from governments, kind of like globally in many countries and all of that. What's your view? It's like, I mean, you guys seem to think that, or at least government involvement has been really helpful for you guys.
Yeah. I think in part has to do with the angle that we're taking esports to market with. We market it as a sport. Right? And when we're marketing it as a sport, when we approach the government, we're going to the Ministry of Sport, we're talking to the officials there, and sport is something that can get the community involved, that can promote a healthy lifestyle amongst the youth. Sport is something that can get retail going, get businesses going, get stadiums built. So using that angle, we were very able to get these government garner support from the government. We're not framing it as just a form of entertainment, but also inclusive of being a sporting event, inclusive of being something that will really drive a local city or a local province's economy.
I'm watching time and mindful that we're standing between this hungry crowd and lunch. And so I just kind of like go straight to our last question, and this is a question that has been touched in the past two panels. And in your time in gaming and esports and all that, what was some of that experiences or stories? Just now Jasper made mention about, I think, conflict moment, like kind of when eating conflict and then suddenly you drop the spoon, like that kind of moment for you. And did you have any of those? You definitely have. You've been in esports and gaming for a while. And what were those moments for you, or that one moment?
The one moment. Wow, this is a hard one.
I'm sure there are many. Just pick one or pick three.
Sure. I think I'll pick a recent one. And it was something that really touched me personally. So I was live at the Asian Games event in Jakarta. And I just remember growing up, watching the Olympics, watching, when the athletes, they win a medal, they're crying, and the flags are being raised, the anthem is being sung. And, I'm watching on TV, it's like, that's great, Canada won another gold medal, or, I was living in Canada back then. But being there live and sort of watching all these different nations, and all that emotion sort of live on site, the flags being raised for esports, the medals being handed out, and that was a moment that really, really touched me. I think, and it also reaffirms what we've been doing with WESG all this time. Nation versus nation, national pride. National pride, I think, is something that's very, very important to sports, and I hope that we can help make it important in esports as well.
Indeed, what is often highlighted about esports is about the big, amazing millions and millions of dollars in prize pools and all that, and not many people talk about the fact that you can have very exciting moments and that moments of passion being highlighted without even all that prize money, just fighting for something that as a gamer they believe in, for national pride and all that. So thanks for doing what you do, and continue investing in esports, and thank you for joining us here, flying all the way from your announcement, and maybe some of the members of the press here may want to catch you afterwards and ask you for a bit more details. So thank you.
Thank you.
Join me in thanking Jason, everyone.
Thank you.
Thanks, man.